There wasn't a fight. No broken glass. No shouting match with our neighbors pretending not to hear through the walls. Just 6 words. Why don't you just disappear? She said it like someone tossing out trash. Not with fury. Not even annoyance. Just cold detachment. Like I was a loose thread she'd grown tired of tugging. And that was it. That was the end. At least, for her. I remember the moment clearer than I'd like. She was sitting at the edge of the bed, legs crossed, filing her nails. The same way she did when we were still trying. When she'd wait for me to finish rambling about work and give me a half-hearted while pretending to listen. But that night, she didn't pretend. Her words landed like bricks in my chest. And still, I said nothing. I just stood there, my bag already half-packed. Not because I was preparing to leave, but because I'd been living in that strange limbo of hope and hesitation for months. It was like waiting for a train you know isn't coming, but you sit on the bench anyway, because standing up would mean accepting it's over. I didn't leave right away. I slept on the couch, or tried to. The cushions held the ghost of arguments we'd never resolved. The air smelled of her perfume, sweet and unbothered, floating out of the bedroom like it was mocking me. And the next morning, when she didn't say anything, not even a glance, I took that as permission. I left a note. Not some grand farewell, just a folded square on the kitchen table with 4 words, "You won't see me." That was the last time I stood in that apartment. No slamming doors. No pleading. Just the quiet shuffle of my footsteps disappearing down the hall. Those first few weeks were brutal. There's a kind of grief in being erased, in realizing that someone you loved deeply can shut the door without looking back. I couch surfed at first, stayed with an old college buddy who didn't ask too many questions. I worked odd jobs, warehouse shifts, night deliveries, anything that paid cash and kept me moving. I told myself I needed time to think, to breathe. But mostly, I was just surviving. I disappeared, just like she told me to. And slowly, that silence she demanded, it became a strange kind of fuel. See, disappearing is one thing. Staying gone, that's an art. And somewhere along the way, I realized I didn't just want to vanish from her life. I wanted to rebuild mine, not in spite of her, but because I owed it to myself. Because if I didn't become something stronger, her words would own me forever. The transformation wasn't cinematic. No flashy montages. Just one quiet, grueling day after another. I moved to a city where no one knew my name. Traded in my old ID. Opened a new bank account. Bought a secondhand laptop and taught myself everything I could about finance, consulting, risk modeling. I'd always been good with numbers. I just never had a reason to push past good enough. Now I did. Every night, I thought of her words. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. Why don't you just disappear? And every time I saw a small win, a certification earned, a contract signed, a client referral, I whispered back in my mind, I did. And I'm still here. By the end of year 3, I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving in the shadows. I had started a boutique consulting firm, under a different name, of course. Built quietly through referrals, mostly offshore clients, discreet contracts. I avoided the spotlight. Let others take credit in public while I handled things behind the scenes. No one connected me to the man I used to be. Not even her. But sometimes, in the quiet, I still remembered her eyes. The way they used to soften when she looked at me. Before the resentment set in. Before the detachment. Before the silence. And I wondered, did she ever think about me? I never Googled her. Never tried to check in. That was the deal I'd made with myself. No looking back. But the heart, as much as I trained it to obey, has a memory that time can't quite erase. It was in year 5 that I got the invitation. A private gala. High-end finance crowd. Black tie, closed list, invitation only. One of my shell companies had done work for the event sponsor, so technically, I was just a partner representative. I almost declined. I hadn't worn a tux in years. Hadn't stepped into that world since her. But something tugged at me. Not revenge. Not curiosity. Just a quiet need to see who I had become, standing in a room full of people who once would have never seen me at all. The moment I saw her, everything slowed. She was across the ballroom, near the champagne tower, laughing too loudly, wearing the kind of dress that screams borrowed confidence. Her hair was lighter than I remembered. She looked thinner, too, not in a glamorous way, but like life had been quietly chipping away at her edges. She didn't recognize me. Not at first. The beard helped. So did the tailored suit. And the name tag on my lapel, Daniel Brooks. a name I'd worn long enough to feel real. But when she did finally see me, something shifted. Her glass froze midair. Her laugh died. Her body swayed. She didn't just look surprised. She looked like someone had punched the air out of her lungs. Her face drained of color, her lips parting like she was trying to form words she didn't remember how to speak. She collapsed. Just like that. Knees buckled. Staff rushed in. A murmur spread across the room. And I stood still. Not triumphant. Not smug. Just still. Because in that moment, all the pain, the silence, the years of rebuilding, they found their resolution. Later that night, she found me on the balcony. She was composed again. Barely. A fresh coat of lipstick couldn't hide the tremble in her jaw. Her voice cracked when she said my name, my real one. Mark. I didn't correct her. I let the name hang in the air like smoke. I thought you were gone, she said. I was. She searched my face, probably looking for remnants of the man she left. You look different. I smiled softly. You told me to disappear. She looked down. I didn't mean it. No, I said. But you said it. And you meant enough of it. She bit her lip, blinking back whatever emotion she was trying to bury. I never thought I'd see you again. I nodded. That was the point. And with that, I walked past her. Not in anger. Not in revenge. But in the purest silence I'd ever known. One born not from hurt, but from healing. That was the night I realized something simple, something quiet. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to scream, or plead, or fight. It's to vanish, and return only when you've become the kind of person who no longer needs to be seen. She didn't follow me right away. I think she needed a minute to collect whatever dignity she had left. 5 years is a long time to pretend someone's gone, only to realize they've returned, not to beg, but to pass by you like a stranger in an expensive suit. I stepped back into the ballroom, weaving through soft jazz and the hum of crystal clinking, but I wasn't really there anymore. My mind was back on that balcony, on the way her face crumpled when I didn't call her name. There was no satisfaction in it. Not even vindication. Just clarity. I wasn't angry. I'd felt all those things years ago. What I felt now was peace. Like closing the final chapter in a book you swore you'd never finish, but always kept beside your bed. She found me again. Of course she did. It was near the coat room, when the night was winding down. Her heels were in her hand now. Her hair a little messier. The mask had dropped. Can we talk? She asked. I looked at her. The same eyes. But everything else, her energy, her presence, it felt smaller. Maybe it had always been, and I just didn't see it before. I don't think there's much to say, I said. Please, she whispered. And for some reason, maybe old habit, maybe because part of me needed the final punctuation mark, I nodded. We sat outside. It was colder now, late. The wind off the water tugged at her dress, but she didn't complain. She didn't even shiver. I thought you'd come back, she said. I stayed silent. I thought you'd get over it and show up one day. Like in the movies. A phone call. Something. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so far from who I'd become. You didn't leave me any room to come back, I said. She nodded, slow. I know. I was cruel. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just waited. I was scared, she admitted. Scared of feeling small, scared of needing someone. You were steady, and I hated that about you. Isn't that stupid? No, I said quietly. It's human. She blinked, surprised. I don't think she expected grace. I pushed you because I thought I could do better. I thought maybe I'd outgrown you. She swallowed hard. But the truth is, you were always better than me. And the second you left, everything just fell apart. I looked at her then, really looked, and I finally saw the truth I hadn't been ready to admit until now. She wasn't my storm. She was my mirror. All those years ago, when she told me to disappear, I thought it was because I wasn't enough. That if I just worked harder, loved deeper, gave more, maybe she'd see me again. But standing across from her now, I realized I had been enough, just not for her. And that's okay. Some people don't need love. They need chaos. And I was never her chaos. I was her calm. And calm people get taken for granted until the whole house starts burning down. I lost everything, she said, her voice barely more than breath. The boutique, the investors, even my family stopped taking my calls. I was so angry at first. I told everyone you ghosted me. I raised an eyebrow. I told them you were weak, that you couldn't handle a real woman. There it was. The bite, the edge. But she looked down again. But it wasn't true. None of it. You handle me better than anyone ever did. She paused. I saw the news last month. About the acquisition. Fairfield Group? I nodded. That's your company? One of them, I said. God. Her voice cracked. You didn't just disappear. You rebuilt everything. Bigger. I shrugged. I didn't rebuild to show you. I rebuilt so I'd never need to be seen by you again. We sat in silence after that. Not awkward silence. Final silence. The kind you share with someone you've already forgiven, but can't ever invite back in. And she knew it. You're not the same, she said. No. You're colder. I'm quieter. She smiled, but it was sad. Are you happy? I looked out at the water. Yeah, I think I am. She nodded, slowly. I'm glad. I really am. And for a second, I believed her. When I stood up to leave, she did too. Mark. I turned. Was I ever enough? Her voice shook, and not from the wind. And I don't know what made me say it, but I answered honestly. You were. For the man I was. I saw tears in her eyes, but I didn't stay to see them fall. I walked back through the lobby, past chandeliers and laughing strangers, into the night where my driver waited. In the rearview mirror, the city lights blurred like old memories. And I thought about how long it takes to become someone new. Not just on paper, but inside. To forgive yourself for staying too long. To let go of the versions of yourself who loved someone who didn't love you back. She told me to disappear. And I did. But what she never counted on was who I'd be when I reappeared. I live a quieter life now. No more chasing validation. No more pretending. I invest. I mentor. I read. I write. Sometimes I pass by couples holding hands on park benches and wonder if I'll ever try again. Love, I mean. But I don't rush it. Because I've learned something most people never do. When you walk away in silence, you don't do it to hurt them. You do it to find yourself. And when you return, it's not to be noticed. It's just to be free.